Welcome everyone to another Observability Clinic. Today's topic is Dynatrace Business Events, expanding observability into your specific business domain. My special guest today is Klaus Enzenhofer. Servus Klaus, wie geht's?
Servus Andy, I'm fine.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this. I know, Klaus, we've been doing educational material like this over the last couple of years. You also, in your role as a product manager, now before that, we work together in the team, but now on the product side, you're really driving a lot of the innovation that comes out of what Dynatrace can do with business relevant data. And I'm really excited that you are, first of all, here today, but really excited that you show us more about Dynatrace Business Events, because it's a big topic that I hear from a lot of our customers. They love that we have traces and metrics and logs, but really the next big thing is how can we use Dynatrace better to figure out how is my business doing, different business use cases. And now handing it over to you, show us what you've prepared for us and what you built into the product.
Thanks, Andy. I'm looking forward to this session. It's been a while since I was here.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get started. What are you going to learn today? First of all, what do we consider as business events? What should you make a business event within the context of Dynatrace to get the best out of it? Second of all, we're going to learn a little bit about the architecture involved in capturing a business event, how convenient it is, and how many flexible possibilities you have to get this data in. And last but not least, we're taking a first look at analytics use cases, what it can do with business events. So business events is something new that we are bringing to the overall architecture, to the platform of Dynatrace. For those who have listened into the log session, Log Powered by Grail was launched earlier this year. Business events you can see as a new element in data that Dynatrace captures, and therefore you can leverage it all the way through. It comes from OneAgent API. There are ecosystem integrations around it coming. It's getting stored in Grail. It leverages Smartscape and Davis to drive outcomes in automation and observability and security area. Business events. A key thing, business events are coming from the business analytics solution, which was mainly covering topics by leveraging the real user monitoring data. But now with the step into the business events, you can think of the real user data and the digital experience data as being the starting point of journeys. So we're now going into full business analytics. The last step in a funnel optimization that you may have done based upon our RAM data is receiving an order. But this is where business analytics now starts and brings everything beyond, because there are multiple steps involved that make up a customer experience. And those are coming from different systems. So while you may have received the order, doesn't mean that at the end your customer actually got his product shipped and has fun with using it. So we're really looking here at this end-to-end journeys. And step by step, we are getting there. And with Grail, with the power of Grail, with the multi-year retention that we're getting, we can look into data totally differently. We can bring here forward like a process that may take hours, where we can take a look at, like, at the end, you got a lot of bad feedback, so your net promoter score is dropping. All these things are now possible, leveraging business analytics and business events. And yeah, what are such precision business events? And it can be everything. It can be from a traditional click on the purchase button over to a customer satisfaction survey that you receive, over to a airline customer doing a check-in. All these things are possible. And the key for you to understand is the business events can come from anywhere. They can be triggered via OneAgent. They can be coming from our real user agents. They can be thrown against our public REST endpoints to work with the data to bring it here. And what we are also pretty soon offering is that you can turn log lines into business events as well. Because log has a lot of these use cases around troubleshooting and whatnot, but a lot of the use cases that you are doing in the area of business today, you have to rely on a log line. Mm-hmm. So from an architectural point of view, what is so powerful? What has changed with this release that is rolling out to you now? First of all, OneAgent. The thing that we changed there is we upgraded it, the OneAgent to go from just monitoring use cases to business use cases. What does that mean? We have created these business events that are fully topology aware. That means they know the process, the host, the user session, and the pure path that is sitting there. But key, if there is no user session or if there is no pure path, the business event is still there. Second of all, what does the deep request insights mean? With deep, we mean you can go into the payload of the data. How many times have we heard, like, yep, I'm getting there an HB 200, but in the payload, it says payment didn't work out. Payment was not processed correctly. Or you're sending over details of an order where you need some particular pieces. You want to grab it out of the payload and make it visible. Everything just a config away and nothing to recode like you would have to do today with going down the route of log. Second of all, for the real user monitoring part, we have upgraded. I think the last time I was here with you, Andy, it was with user session and action properties. Mm-hmm. Great tool, help you optimize your funnel and whatnot. But we wanted to bring you a very flexible API that you can trigger at any point in time. And as I said before, can exist even outside of the scope of a user session. Trigger it, bring up to 64 kilobyte in size with one event to Dynatrace. So that way, for example, when you have your data layer object on the website, you can just take the entire object and send it off to Dynatrace for analysis. Very, very powerful. Public API endpoint, bringing event-based data from any other source. And we are working here on Salesforce, Medallia, customers talking about Hybris, Navitaire, being those kind of sources, bringing those kind of data to Dynatrace, augmenting the already existing Dynatrace data, helping to solve problems right away. Data processing pipeline, for those who listened into log session, already know you have there for every data point, no matter if it's coming from OneAgent or the API or from real user agent, you have the ability to process it, to obfuscate, to expand the smartscape with the data that you're ingesting right in this processing pipeline. I already mentioned it, multi-year retention and without any aging and without the need of rehydration or any of these. So when you're running a query against Grail, you can rely on the data being there. An event comes in, gets stored, and stays as is there, always ready for you to analyze. And Dynatrace Query Language, the powerful query language with the precision as you need it. If you really need to know, did the NDA buy something from your store? You really want to look it up. If you did that in the past 3 years, go run the query and you will get the precise answer. All of this analysis results you can leverage either via public REST endpoint or on the dashboard side of the house.
This is a really powerful, and I'm just, Klaus, the reason why I kept quiet for so long is because, first of all, you did a great explanation on how first of all, what is the problem we really want to solve? And just to recap and just correct me if I'm wrong, we are enabling our customers, our users, to capture data that is business relevant for them, but always in the context of all the other data that we capture in our observability platform, right? You mentioned that these business events are then automatically connected with Smartscape. That means we know where does this business data come from which particular part of the environment, from which particular app, from which particular user. This is great. Also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said something about, I think you mentioned something like precision. That means the business data is always captured, right? There's no, I think we call it flexible overhead protection in Dynatrace OneAgent, where we make sure that we are not causing too much overhead on the system, and therefore some of the data may get removed. But in this case, the business data is always there, which really allows you to do high precision, accurate business analytics on that data. Is this correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the big game changer, and this is what we do with the upgrade from monitoring data to even business data.
And then I really like it that we have it available in the OneAgent. That means any type of system you already monitor with the OneAgent, you can now use the OneAgent to extract business data. You have the powerful API where I can send external data to it, to Dynatrace. That's awesome. And then with the power of Grail, having the multi-year retention and the DQL, the power of really running any type of query. And folks, if you're new to Grail, if you're new to DQL, I will post links to the previous clinics we did on Grail and on DQL. There's also a lot of great documentation around it. So in case this is new for you, don't worry, we already have this covered. But Klaus, now back to you, because I think it's time soon to go into a demo.
Yes. So we learned what a business event is. We learned a little bit about the architecture. Now let's try to build this particular dashboard, the performance clinic dashboard, and what it takes to get it done. Let's jump into the demo right away. So what we have here is a new application, not Easy Travel this time. It's about Easy Trade. Easy Trade is about buying and selling stock. And when you have a user, he comes in here, gets his overview, which stocks he already bought, and he has here a tab where he or she can trade. So, for example, Easy Travel, a phenomenal company. Andy, I hope you've heard about it before, but just having 10 stocks there is not enough. So let's buy another 10. Very simple, but exactly this click on buy or click on sell is such a key transaction that we want to turn into a business event. So what happens from a technical point of view is pretty simple. If I click here, I should sell one. If I click sell, a request gets triggered. That request has a URL. That request has a certain payload where we have our amount, where we have our price, everything in there.
And just, Klaus, so that for me to understand, and also for the listeners, this is just a regular API that whoever built Easy Trade, right, that they basically provide a backend API where they're pushing JSON objects to the backend and saying this is what the user wants to do.
Exactly, that's what it is. And the key is, why are we talking about the API? We are now capturing not with real user monitoring like we used to do it. We are going to the backend because real user monitoring, as you know, is impacted by ad blockers and other things. But we want to really have the best precision data possible. That's why we now instruct our OneAgent to capture that data for us. So we're here in our demo system, and as you can see, we have here a new entry in the main menu about business analytics that allows us to explore business events. That's the user interface where we can run queries. But we first want to make sure that data gets captured. I love our new search here. That is really powerful. If I just look for business, I get here in the settings, my OneAgent results, my processing pipeline, my bucket assignment, all of this is there. We want to capture it on the OneAgent side. And as like a good chef, I'm already coming here prepared. As you can see, we have here for selling and buying an asset, we already have here configurations sitting. Let me quickly explain to you what these configurations are doing. First of all, you give it a name so you can you know what this rule is supposed to do. Then you're adding a trigger. We have already here a trigger that is exactly this backend API call, the request path that we want to leverage here. But in case it's not the request path, you would be able to leverage anything on this incoming request. So you can go for body, HTTP header, method, query string parameters, whatever should trigger the rule, you can define it here. In this case, we keep it to request path that starts with exactly that broker API trade sell asset. That should be whenever OneAgent sees this URL, it should trigger creation of an event. Now let's add a little bit of information on this event. And that's where we have some mandatory fields like the event provider, where a lot of times you will use the fixed value, basically you typing in hard-coded what it is here in the config, but you could also leverage things on the request. For us here, we want to put in here the easytrade.com website, and then we want to give it a good name that we later on use in analysis as well, the event type, whether it's a sell or a buy asset. I do myself now a favor, I copy it right away. Then we, in the event category, we do here a dynamic one. We put in here what was the actual request path that was triggered. And then we can fill the event in the data payload with whatever we want. For demonstration purposes, you've seen before in the JSON, I'll quickly jump back. We have here account ID, amount, instrument ID, price. What we do is we define here for account ID that we want to go into the request body, and then you can put here in the path field a JSON selector that tells which part of the JSON you want. You can have there more complex ones. The JSON here in this case is very simple. That's why it's just that way. The same we have there for amount, but we also have here for request and response body, you have the ability to use star. But please do that during setup time because you don't know what you're capturing. And as mentioned before, the 64 kilobytes of events, if you do request body star and response body star, you are capturing with every request that is coming in 64 kilobyte in total from body and from request and response body together. It can be a significant amount of data that you are going to send off if you go with star. That's why we want to make sure that we capture only what we actually really want to have here.
Hey, Klaus, just for me again, this is fascinating. That means what you're telling me, you have a business critical app and it makes REST calls to the backend where it passes data obviously through request, the request body, maybe some response body comes back that also then confirms, like in your case, did the trade go through, yes or no? Now in Dynatrace, you have the ability to ask the OneAgent, hey, OneAgent, not just capture your distributed traces, but always when you see a request to this particular endpoint, go into the body of the request or the response, parse out individual fields because this is business relevant data. All of this will become a single business event that is additionally linked to the Smartscape, to our topology. But then also on the top, you had some mandatory fields like what is the data source, right? I think that you called it the provider. What is the event type, which means if I think about this, right, you have one trading platform here. I know we have probably a lot of customers that operate larger platforms with multi-tenant systems, and they could then say, hey, we have the same business event of trading, but then maybe we have, this tenant is, I don't know, bank A, the other one is bank B and bank C. So you can use the same kind of rules or generate the same type of business events, but then have a definition or a distinction of where did the data come from, what event type it is, and so on. So this
Exactly.
is, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, once this is in place and effect, it immediately goes off. OneAgents are starting to capture everything. No cycles like you would do with log lines or other things where you have like an entire development cycle to adjust. So you can go in here, configure, goes off, starts capturing.
Hey, one more thing, Klaus.
Yeah.
You know that I really like to automate as much as possible. I've been talking to a lot of DevOps teams over the years. I assume this is all based on our settings 2.0 framework.
Perfect. Yeah, Andy. Everything is on settings 2.0. So all the stuff that we did here in the UI, you can do via API, transferring the same config from dev to test environments to production environments.
Yeah, that's cool. And just a word to all the listeners here that are building DevOps pipelines. The idea here is that you can add this configuration, right? Observability configuration as code, add it to your source code repository where your developers write their code as code, and where they have their tests as code. You can now also have the Dynatrace configuration as code, because the developers know when they build a new API endpoint and they want to have particular things being extracted as a business event, you can allow them to basically store this Dynatrace configuration as part of your source code repo, and then your pipeline, as you're pushing out your code changes from dev to stage into production, you can also just apply these changes to Dynatrace, whether you're using the API directly with a Terraform provider. We also have our own Monaco tool. That's basically following the full observability as code or monitoring as code approach. Cool.
Yep. So let's jump over into the analytics steps. And I've prepared here already the DQL. So when we are running here, the fetch BIS events, we are already getting here information. And like you said, everything in context. So we know to which host, to which process this belongs, to which user session this event belongs, and also to which trace it belongs. All of the information on screens that you are used to, like we are loading here our host informations, where we can see what was going on while this happened, while this event happened, what was going on from a process perspective. We have the process overview, the .NET process triggering this particular business event. We have the information about the user session that triggered this event. And we also have the information about the pure path, the backend side, the trace, what was going on there when this business event was triggered. All this information is there. I'll close here those tabs as we do not want to dive into these areas. You have a lot of these performance clinics covering these screens anyway. But let's focus on those events that matter to us. Let's assume we want to get to the result. We want to know the trading volume on this particular platform. So we want to have only events that are about buying or selling the assets. Let's rerun it. Let's take a look at one of these events, what they look like. If I click it, see we have here a buy asset. We have their host information, process information, the account ID, amount, the category that we defined, the event ID, which is auto-generated. It's an event kind of a business event. Yeah. The provider, instrument ID, price. We have here the entire request body, and span, trace ID, all that stuff is there. We're not sending back any response body in this case, so we could skip that setup. But now we know that we have the amount and we have the price on the event. And in order to get to trading volume, we can do amount by price. We know what the volume is per trade, and we just do that way. So while there was nothing like a trading volume as a field on the event, we can just run it that way. So we do amount by price and add a new field that is about trading volume. Let's run the query again, and we have now the ability to see at the end the trading volume. New field there. All we have to do now is that we summarize this, sorry, let me put in here. Let me put in here a line break again. We summarize the trading volume and we're getting to the trading volume. Run the query. Now we can turn it into single value chart, and we know that it's about 10 million in 7 days of trading. Small, easy trade thing, but yeah. Now let's add it to our dashboard. We have the Performance Clinic dashboard here. Let's pin it, not yet open it, because besides having the overall volume, it may be of interest to see it over time. And while you have to create the metric that derives that for you, you can now go with the query language and just say like, okay, let's give it a shot and turn it into an overtime time series on the fly. So we're doing a by bin. We're turning it into a couple of pins. The pins should be the timestamp. And what we want to do is we want to have a 20 or a 6 hour slot for it. And let's run the query again. We're seeing now for every 6 hours, we're getting here a bar chart. Very simple, very cool. Why is that so cool? Why do I love that feature so much? It's like, how many times have you presented a report and your line of business said like, hey, it's close, but no, I only care, let's say, about the buy and not about the sell assets. Let's rerun the query. Done. This is no metric that I have to write down before. So it's really on the fly. I can run these queries and generate that stuff. And let me pin that one to our Performance Clinic dashboard here as well. And now let's go in here and open it and see how close are we already to what we wanted to have like before. Let me close that here a little bit. So we have here a bar chart that's close to what we wanted to have. It looks like we have not yet changed the name. Let's go in here and like, okay, it is our trading volume over time. So we fixed that, and I seem to have promised you per day day bars. I just jump back, do the same thing. I put it in there, 6 hours. Okay, let's do 24 hours. Run the query again, update the dashboard, and we are there. We have exactly the same thing here. And then let's take this one and move it a bit over here. And we have here our wonderful single value tile. And we want to rename it as well to trading volume over. Actually, that's not over time. That's just the trading
total.
volume.
The total.
That's the total. Yeah.
Awesome.
And we are good. We are safe to start reporting on it.
Yeah. Wow. And then obviously, Klaus, with this, first of all, I mean, it's a really cool story, right? I mean, it's not only a story, but it really solves the problems that our customers have asked us to. Now we have the data in context as well. In context means we know exactly what was the user experience of these users that were trading. Maybe there was an error, maybe there was a downtime, maybe there was something else going on that is impacting the trading volumes. And we can now correlate this obviously with all the other data that we have. But just having this here as an additional data point in our observability platform, the business events, having the flexibility of DQL, it's amazing how fast you can, craft these queries. And you were just scratching the surface. I know the I played around with DQL myself over the last 2 weeks since I've kind of got started with it. It's so powerful with so many functions. You also, Klaus, you showed me that you can even do things like you can calculate differences between timestamps on certain events, right? If you have, like you had your example in the very beginning with a customer buys something, then it gets into the order processing system, that gets into fulfillment, blah, blah, blah. And then you have different events, but they all kind of go to the same order. And now you can do all of your analytics with DQL, and this is just phenomenal. I think it would be too much to cover everything today. I asked you, hopefully you will come back and then we do some more advanced use cases, but it's fantastic what you guys have done.
It's amazing to be here, and I'm happy to come back. And this time I won't wait for 2 years to come back. I'll be faster this time, but there are a couple of topics like pausing on read, pausing on write, something that you can do, show you a very good example influenced by one of our preview customers saying like, hey, we have there these massive JSON things, beacons that we're sending to an endpoint today. Can we get that into Dynatrace? We need it. We need the additional information from Dynatrace. Let's take a look at how easy that is. So we are taking the API data. We are then, first of all, working with on read and on write parsing. And we are going to dive into some DQL commands that are really nice, where it's about chaining events, where it is about restricting data to maybe just the office hours during the week, and see how we can get there some better and interesting analytics cases.
Cool. Cool, Klaus. I think you have some additional resources that we also want to highlight. Exactly.
Yep. There is already a launch blog post that you can take a look at. There is the entire documentation, how to use Dynatrace Business Analytics. Look it up. And for those who are already our customers, Dynatrace University, check it out. There is already an intro to business events on Dynatrace University available as well.
Awesome. I will also make sure to add these links to the description of our clinic today. That means you can find those links both on YouTube, also on University, because that recording goes up on both places. Klaus, for me, again, I think so many new use cases. Personally, my favorite obviously is we can automate all of this. That means as a developer, as a development team, I can talk with the business. And when I'm writing a new API that is business critical, like you're selling, you're buying, you're selling, whatever else you have, you can already, as part of your development process, add the Dynatrace configuration to your source code repo and then apply it either through Terraform, Monaco, however you like it, to Dynatrace, to the target environment, so that you make sure that whenever you deploy your app, Dynatrace is already automatically properly configured to capture the relevant pieces of your HD. You showed us, like you have a long list, your URLs, your parameters, your request body, your response body, everything is possible now. And really cool. It's opening up so many new ideas. So really excited.
Thanks, Andy. Let's talk about them next time.
Okay, perfect. Then until next time, see you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.